Legacy Builders, welcome to the first chapter of the IP for Business Blueprint course. I'm Jenn McNeely with JWM Designs and Marketing, and in this video, I'm going to talk about trademarks versus service marks, what they each are, the differences between them, what sort of marks can be trademarked, and the difference between a registered and an unregistered mark. This is the first video in this chapter of the intellectual property course, and it is packed with so much information. I hope you've gone ahead and followed my advice from the introduction video and gone ahead and downloaded the e-notebook for this course. If not, pause the video and click the link to the e-notebook that's in the course resources area so that you can take notes and follow along with this lesson. Why now? The reason understanding what trademarks and service marks are, their differences, and the effects of registering a mark are important because it sets the tone for every marketing and branding decision you make in your company. You've gone through the process of starting a business and establishing your brand. Don't you want to make sure that you can protect your business from people who may want to profit off of your hard work and your good name? This lesson will provide you with the foundation you need to understand your ownership rights in your brand. With that being said, let's dive in. Most of you have probably heard the term trademark, and you have a general idea of what it means, but you may not be familiar with a service mark. So a trademark is a word, phrase, design, symbol, or a combination of those things that identifies the source of a product and differentiates it from other sources. Think of a trademark like a brand or a logo. A good example would be Nike's swoosh or McDonald's golden arches. When you see those words or logos on a product, as a consumer, you can immediately identify the source. A service mark is pretty much the same as a trademark, but instead of identifying the source of a product or good, it identifies the source of a service. Think of a popular heating and air company or a pest control company in your area. In this video, I will sometimes use the term trademark, service mark, or mark interchangeably, but they all pretty much mean the same thing. They are different in the sense of one is for services and one is for products and goods, but I want you to be aware that in the business, a lot of people just say marks. What does a trademark or service mark protect? Because trademarks and service marks identify the particular source of a product or service, they provide legal protection to companies or individuals who own the exclusive rights to use a mark. Owners of a mark have the right to keep someone else from using their mark to profit or in any way that would damage the reputation and diminish the value of the mark. For example, let's say you open a customized gift store called Jessica's Crafty Creations, and your logo features the name of the store with pink flowers encircling it. Your store is widely popular and you've become a sensation in your town. Seeing the popularity of your store, shortly after you open the store, another craft store opens right across the street with a similar name and logo design as yours. As the owner of the brand Jessica's Crafty Creations, you can take legal action to have a court order the competing business to move to a different location or even change its name. The reason for this is so that it does not confuse consumers. You could also potentially have that person pay you the costs associated with filing a legal action if it comes to that. Limits of protection. It's important to know from the beginning that trademarks do not protect every aspect of your business. Remember to think of trademarks and service marks as a way to protect your brand, but it's not necessarily going to protect your products or your services. For example, if your company invents a product that is only manufactured by your company, a trademark would not provide you protection for the configuration of the invention, but a patent possibly could. Or let's say you wrote a book related to topics in your industry. A trademark will not protect what you wrote, but a copyright may. When it comes to trademarks and service marks, because their purpose is to identify the source of a good or service, they must be distinctive. The strength of a trademark is essentially a consideration of distinctiveness. The greater the distinctiveness, the greater the scope of the protection it can be afforded under trademark law. The goal with trademark is to avoid the likelihood that consumers will confuse your mark or brand with someone else's mark or brand. There are 4 categories of distinctiveness. First, generic. Generic marks that suggest the basic nature of a product or service. Second, descriptive. Descriptive marks identify the characteristics or quality of a product or service. Third, suggestive. Suggestive marks are marks that suggest characteristics of a product or service and require an effort of the imagination by the consumer in order to understand it as a description. And 4, arbitrary or fanciful. Arbitrary or fanciful marks are marks that bear no relationship to the product or service in the strongest category of all of the trademarks that are out there. Generally, generic terms or phrases cannot be trademarked simply by using a particular color or business stationery that does not entitle you to trademark protection. For example, the term computers or fashion are way too generic for a trademark. We will talk more about the characteristics that are needed for a protectable mark in a later lesson. A question that I often get is whether registering a domain name or a business name is the same as registering for a trademark. They are not. A domain name is a web address for a website. For example, my company's domain name is JWMDesigns.com. Domain names are registered with an internet registrar service like Namecheap or Google Domains. In most instances, a domain name will not entitle you to a trademark protection rights because it does not qualify as a source indicating mark. However, depending on how the domain name is used separate from being a web address, it can be trademarked. An example of a domain name that is also a service mark is stamps.com. It is both the web address, but it is also a source indicating mark used by the company stamps.com. Speaking of business names, as I mentioned in a prior video, business names are registered on the state level. There is no federal registry for businesses. The use of a business name does not automatically entitle a business owner to trademark rights. However, a business can qualify as a source indicating trademark through its use as a source of goods or services. For example, JWMDesigns.com LLC is my business name, and I am the only business registered in the state of Georgia that can use that name to do business. It is possible that a similarly named company exists in another state, but as far as the state of Georgia is concerned, my business is the only one authorized to do business in the state under that name. My business name and logo combined are what I use to brand my business, and when consumers see the combination of the two on a video or downloaded materials, they identify my business as the source of the product or service. This brings me to one of the biggest areas of uncertainty when it comes to intellectual property rights, and that is whether a mark has to be registered in order to protect your brand. The answer is no. Simply by using your unregistered mark or logo in your business, you have what is considered common law rights to the mark. To establish that you have adopted an unregistered mark for your business, you can use a TM for goods and products and an SM for services each time you use the mark. This means that if someone uses your mark in commerce, you have the right to seek legal intervention to stop them from using your mark and potentially receive compensation for any damage caused by the infringer's use of your mark. You may be asking yourself, well, what's the benefit of registering a mark if I already have rights without it? Well, when you register a mark with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, your mark is listed on the principal register for the country, and it creates a legal presumption that you own the mark and have the exclusive right to use the mark nationwide on or in connection with the goods and services listed in the registration materials. It allows you to use the federal registration symbol, the circle with the R, and put the public on notice that you own the mark. Registering your mark with the USPTO also allows you to register with the U.S. Customs and Border Protection to prevent the importation of counterfeit goods from other countries. Federally registering your mark will also allow you access to federal courts if you need to. What if my mark is similar to someone else's and they are in a completely different industry? As I mentioned previously, The goal of trademarks and service marks is to avoid the likelihood of confusion by making it easier for consumers to identify the source of a good or service. The likelihood that consumers will confuse one mark with another mark happens when the marks are similar and the goods and services provided are related. An example of related goods would be one company that sells shoes and the other company that sells shirts and hats. Both companies sell apparel items, and consumers could be confused by the two if they share a similar mark. An example of unrelated goods would be a company that sells watches and another company that sells cars. In most cases, two similar marks can coexist as long as the goods and services are not related. We'll go more into depth about the similarity among marks and avoiding the likelihood of confusion in a later lesson. So why is understanding the basics of trademarks so important for business owners? Two reasons. The first is to protect the brand from other people or companies that may want to profit or harm your business. It's that simple. Just like you would protect your home or vehicle from someone using it without permission, the same goes for your business trademark and brand. The second reason is to protect you from infringing on the rights of someone else. Just as you wouldn't want someone to unfairly compete with you or profit from your business, you should be on guard to make sure you refrain from doing the same thing. So let's recap. In this video, we talked about trademarks and service marks, what they each are, the differences between them, what sort of marks can be trademarked, and the difference between a registered and unregistered mark. In the next video lesson, we're going to dive a little bit deeper and discuss selecting a mark for your business and what is needed to have a legally protectable mark. Your action steps for this lesson is I encourage you to do a search through the principal registry as well as registry in your state to see the types of things that have been registered as trademarks and service marks and get an idea of what you may want to register as a trademark or a service mark for your business. Check to see if any companies are registered that have a similar name to yours and look at their trademarks. I provided those links in the course resources section below. I also encourage you to take a look at your branded materials, your logos, and decide if any of those things should be trademarked. Additionally, you may want to consider adding a TM or an SM to show that you have adopted your logo as your trademark or service mark for your business. All right, guys, I hope you found this first lesson to be helpful. I am super pumped to share this course with you. Please post your questions or comments in the video comment area below. You can also post your questions and comments to the private Facebook group as well. Remember, you can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and my handles to those sites are all listed in the course resources as well as in your e-notebook. All right, guys, until I see you in the next lesson, let's keep building.